Hey guys, I'm Teresa. Welcome back to my channel, Lost My Thread. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a refashion that I've done of a very old skirt that I made years ago to make it something a little bit more wearable. Now, if you've been sewing for a while, you will definitely have these kinds of garments that you've made years ago that just either don't fit you, you don't like the style, they just don't work for some reason or another, but you don't want to part with them because they are just a bit special or the fabric is just gorgeous and you want to make it happen. So I have found a skirt back in November when I reorganized all of my fabric stash. You might have seen it if you watched that video. I'll pop a link to that if you want to see that video and you can see a little bit more about this skirt and other things that I found. But this skirt I made about 20 years ago. It's a really gorgeous fabric and I don't want to lose it, but it is just not functioning in the way that it is right now. So I made this out of a pattern back in 2002, 2001, something along those lines. And this is quite a quirky skirt. It has a sort of tie bustly section just over the bum, which gives it a fun, playful shape. It is quite full and quite wide, but it is not the right fabric for the project. That's the main thing. It's quite a heavy fabric and it tends to pull down. And I will say also this was made from a Big Four pattern. Can't remember what it was, but I'll pop it up on the screen. But this pattern also, I think I probably made the wrong size, so I'm sure that doesn't help. But I will say just the weight of all this fabric, particularly around the bum area, it just wants to pull down. Gravity wants to pull it down. So it doesn't stay up, it's not comfortable, but I didn't want to let this one die. So this is the fabric. I will show you up close. It is crinkled because, guys, this is right from my stash. I'm not pretending that this has been prepped. This has been sitting in my cupboard since 2000, maybe 4, probably is the last time that I would have worn it. This fabric is so beautiful. I love the design of it. It is a linen blend. I think it's a cotton linen based on the weight and the feel of it. It does have a little bit of drape to it, so there could be some viscose in there, but I think it's probably more of a linen cotton combo. I love the color of it. This is not a color that I would often gravitate toward, but it's the colors on it that I really love. So you've got this almost like an orangey red tone on there. Love the pinks on there. I love that you've got these sort of doodle design, but also some watercolor feel. I think it's just such a gorgeous fabric. Now I do have quite a lot of it because this bustle section in the back extends from, well, my width here, about a meter or about a yard, and it ties up like this. So this is the bit that's meant to be going around my body, but this is all this extra, whoops, fabric going along here. So it's reasonably long. It's quite a big piece of fabric. There is also a lot of fabric within this skirt, I have to say. So I did a pretty deep hem on this that's folded over that I can unpick, and then I'll have quite a bit more length. There is also, in the top section, there's quite a long, hang on, that's the bottom again. In the top section, we've got a very big waistband that's folded over that I can use as well, and that goes around the whole of the waistband. But I will say some of that is broken up because there's a hole. This is a buttonhole, which is how you get the ties through, which has worn out. I mean, definitely there's some issues with how I secured all of that. You know, this is back at the very beginning of my sewing and I didn't quite know what I was doing. I didn't really finish my seams at that stage of my sewing. I got the salvage so I can even see. Love that. Let me turn it around. Apparently this was made by someone called Halfmoon Textiles. Okay. This fabric came from Hancock Fabrics in Chicago back, you know, in the early 2000s. But the main part of the skirt as well, because it wasn't fitting, I tried to kind of make it work. I added some little darts in the front, sort of trying to pinch it in a bit. Still never stayed up, but I'm hoping that I can get a decent wearable skirt. I do like the idea of this being a skirt. I feel like it's the right weight, the right swoosh. I think it would go well with a lot of tops in my wardrobe, so I think it's what I want to do with it. I was dreaming up something like the estuary skirt by So Liberated. Now this does ask for quite a lot of fabric, so I might not be able to make this exactly like that, but that is my basic inspiration. The other thing to mention is it does have these really thick straps, really thick, and this is doubled over. So I think that that could be used, I've got 2 of these big straps. I think this could be used for either the waistband or the button placket, or both. So like I said, there's quite a lot of fabric actually tucked away in this thing. So I think that there's a good chance that I might have enough for the skirt or some sort of adaptation. So the first thing I'm going to do is just unpick all of these seams so that I can lay out all the fabric, see how much I've actually got, place the estuary skirt pattern pieces over the top and see if I can make it work as it is. If not, see what kind of adaptations that I can make along the way, and I'm going to be showing you the process as I'm working through it. Well, that took a minute. I have managed to take apart all of the seams, including the ties, completely unpicked. When I was younger, apparently I thought I had to sew with some really tight stitches. But yeah, it's all taken apart. I'm just going to need to give this a really good press, and it would be interesting to see what pieces I've got to work with and compare that to the pattern pieces for the estuary skirt. So I've got my pieces laid out here, and I'm going to talk through what I've got going on and what I'm thinking. So this section up here, this is the back skirt piece, and the back skirt piece for the pattern fits perfectly on there. Over here in this section, this is where I had the button loops where the tie went through, so I can't really use that section of the fabric. I mean, I can use that corner, but I can't use the area that's got the hole in it, as I'm sure you can appreciate. If we move over, this is just one of 4 of the ties that I've got. So I've got 4, they're basically like a half tie, and I folded this in half because the back waistband needs to be cut on the fold, and it's actually exactly the same width as this strap that I've got, so I can cut that on fold, and that's gonna be my back waistband done. And then I've got front waistband pieces, which again, same width. I can actually cut and just use one of these straps. So I've got 3 remaining. This is my button placket. And as you can see, I can lay the button placket over the top and use one more. So I'm still gonna have 2 of those left, which is great. The skirt front piece is where it gets a little bit more hairy. So if you can see here, my skirt front piece is a bit more narrow from the skirt that I made before, and so I don't have enough fabric to overlap and make the fullness of the skirt here. But I have got a couple of options. So one thing I was thinking about doing, if you compare the front waistband piece to the pattern piece, you do gather this waistband into, you do gather the skirt into the waistband. Theoretically, I could just make it as wide as my fabric and then it's just a bit less gathered. But I don't love how that looks. The other thing I could think about is whether I can insert another panel of fabric into the sides of this skirt. If we come over to the main, well, the back skirt panel, there's actually quite a bit of fabric excess going beyond this skirt. And I wanted to look and see on this pattern piece, it looks like it's 4 inches wider than what I've already got. So if we come over to my back skirt piece and see if we wanted to get another 4 inches plus a little bit of seam allowance, if we started the skirt here, whoops, and extended up, I could actually manage to go just past the edge of this. I might have to go in a teeny bit to be able to get a strip that would be 4 inches wide that I could add to either side of this front skirt piece. All right, so I've managed to cut everything out. So this is the front skirt piece that I just wanted to show you. I'm basically just going to be patchworking these two sections together, and then I'm going to lay the pattern piece down on top so that I can trace out where the pocket's supposed to be. I know that it's going to be a little bit smaller than it's intended just because I do need to have a bit of seam allowance to join these together, but I don't think that that's going to be a problem for me, honestly. I think it's still going to have quite a bit of gathering. I am not worried about pattern matching any of that, guys. We are working with what we've got. So this is the front of the skirt here, and this is going to be the side. And I think there's so much fullness in the skirt, I don't think you're going to notice that little bit of a different pattern on there. But I will play around with which side or which direction I think looks better on there, and then I'll show you an update. Okay, so I've stitched these along. What I've done is I've stitched and then I've overlocked the edge just to try and keep it as neat as possible. I've given it a really good press so that it's sitting nice and flat, and then I'm going to lay the pattern piece over the top. So if you can tell, I've lined it up at the center edge, which I think is the most important, where the button placket's going to be. But on this side seam here, it's just a tiny bit. I think that looks like maybe a couple of centimeters, 2.5 centimeters, something like that. So not long, it's just a little bit over 1 inch that I didn't quite make it because I had that seam allowance, obviously. It's a little bit of a longer gap at the bottom because it was clearly a little bit fuller at the bottom, but I think there's still going to be plenty full for a skirt, and there's going to be plenty to gather, which is the main thing. Here she is. I feel like these buttons really just tie it together. These are some really lovely buttons that I got from a small fabric shop in Oxfordshire where my mother and father-in-law live. Got them for a shirt dress. I just didn't think they were right for it, and I'm so glad that I hung on to them because I feel like it really helps to bring that pink out on here. I feel like this skirt is everything that I would have hoped for. So I do have this panel here that you can see, but the way the skirt falls, I really don't think you notice it. The pockets on there are just so fun. I do love the sort of slouchy nature of the pocket. I feel like I did such a great job doing what I could with what I had, and I really didn't have very much fabric left over from the old skirt. I want to show you what it looks like on, which is really what it's all about. And honestly, guys, having the skirt made up means so much to me. I don't think I shared with you before, but this skirt has a lot of emotional ties for me additionally, and not just because I made it 20 years ago, but I actually had made that skirt previously, and it was what I was wearing the first time that I flew to England to meet my now husband of 19 years. And it's just pretty amazing to be able to now wear that skirt again. Has all this beautiful emotional story behind it, and I'm so glad that I put in the extra effort. I think I was a bit intimidated to cut into that skirt in case I just completely destroyed it, but it was so worth it, and it was such a joy to work with this fabric again. Brought back a lot of memories, and I am really looking forward to wearing this skirt much more now that it is more my style and more something that fits me and is going to work in my wardrobe. I hope I've inspired some of you to try and pick up some of those old makes and maybe refashion or cut them up and turn them into something else that you might love. I know that it's inspired me to think about some of the lesser worn clothes in my own wardrobe and some other things that I've got picked out that I'm hoping to refashion again. Let me know if you enjoyed this kind of video in the comments down below. A little bit of a different style for me, but I thought it would be fun to show you my whole thought process going from one skirt to another. If you did enjoy my video today, think about subscribing. I'll be doing more refashions in the future, hopefully, if you guys enjoy it. Give me a like to let me know if you did, and obviously you can let me know down below in the comments. Let me know what you've refashioned as well. If you've done like a complete transformation of something, I've definitely got a few things knocking around that could do with it. But otherwise, little tweaks that you found really helped to make something more wearable. It's really great to be able to share this kind of inspiration with you guys. I hope to see you all again very soon. Bye!